Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. And friends, again we're going to decode one of the PYQ that have been asked in Sociology Optional in the UPSC mains examination. And that particular PYQ has come from the topic Unit 1B. The topic name is Scope of Sociology and Comparison with Other Social Sciences. So that particular PYQ has come from this topic that is called Scope of Sociology. So let's look into that PYQ and decode it properly. So the question is, in the context of globalization, has the scope of sociology been changing in India? Comment. So if you can see here, the directive is comment, okay, and few other critical words are, in the context of globalization, the scope of sociology has been continuously changing. So when you understand the exact demand of the question, you have to mold your content accordingly. And this question was asked in 2020, 10 marker 50 words. So whenever we have 10 marker, you have to be very careful because you cannot beat around the bush. So you have to write the content as per the demand of the question within a very specific word limit of 150 words. So you have to hit the bullseye. Okay. So as you can see, the question reads, in the context of globalization, has the scope of sociology been changing in India or not? And you have to simply comment. When you talk about the comment, you have to give your opinion. And while giving your opinion, you have to substantiate your opinion with examples. This is a simple meaning of the directive comment. So if you have understood this topic about the scope of sociology, I'll just give you a very brief idea. The scope of sociology basically means what are the areas to be dealt by sociology. What are the areas to be dealt by sociology? Just like when we talk about the zoology, zoology is basically dealing with animals. When we talk about the botany, it is dealing with plants. When we talk about the astronomy, it is dealing with the study of the entire universe, right? So in that sense, what are the areas that has to be dealt by the sociology? Just like if you look into the school of thoughts that earlier developed, they were basically two school of thoughts. One was synthetic, which is also known as encyclopedic school of thought. And the other one is formal or specialist school of thought. I'm just giving you the whole content in a very brief manner. I'm not going to too much of detail. So see, synthetic school of thought was the idea propounded by the earlier sociologists. Just like you can associate the name here with Saint-Simon, Auguste Comte, Emile Durkheim, and they propounded the idea that all the domains that have been dealt by particular sciences, those all domain comes under the purview of sociology. Just like, for example, Emile Durkheim, he did a scientific study of suicide. Now, suicide, which was earlier seen as a psychological phenomenon, which was primarily dealt by the psychology, now Emile Durkheim did the sociological analysis of suicide. So see, suicide, which was earlier seen as a psychological phenomenon, that also come under the purview of sociology. Next, criticizing this school of thought came the formal school of thought, or also known as specialist school of thought. Here you need to be very sure that do not confuse synthetic and encyclopedic is same and formal or specialist school of thought is same. Now this school of thought scholars always propounded that sociology is a special kind of science that deals with only certain aspects of society. That is, it is dealing with the human to human interaction at micro level. So various scholars associated here are George Simmel, Max Weber, Ferdinand Toynbee, Albion Small, and all those things. Then there comes an era when the set of scholars started talking about that we need to synthesize both 1 and 2, that is synthetic school of thought along with the formal school of thought. And this school of thought basically talked about the synthesis of both of them. And the scholars associated were like R.K. Merton, who talked about the middle range theory. Then we can also talk about the Anthony Giddens. You can quote even more thinkers. I'm just giving you a broad idea who talked about agency versus structure debate, where it gave the concept of structuration. Then again, the scope of sociology in the later day again started expanding when various other perspectives develop, just like Marxist, neo-Marxist, and even feminist perspective. Okay, and more, you can say, later day development, just like postmodernist thinkers, where you talk about the Jacques Derrida, Alan Bremen, Jean Baudrillard, Michel Foucault. Now these thinkers started talking about various other issues, just like society has become more complex, especially in the era of globalization, where special kind of problems have started emerging, just like environmental problems, terrorism kind of problems, and special type of institutions have also emerged, just like super specialty hospitals. So the scope of sociology has ever been expanding, especially in the modern era, and because of the globalization. And here, if you have understood all those things, it will be very, very easy for you. So when you talk about the globalization, you have to mention certain things, that because in the globalization, there's a free movement of people, there's a free movement of goods and services, there's a free movement of the technology, information, there's an intermixing of ideas, there's an intermixing of people. Okay, and plus, when you say about the globalization, there is basically a weakening of the national barriers. So people are exchanging their ideas. There's a weakening of national barriers. People are becoming more and more aware about their rights. So this is having a profound impact on the society. So when you talk about the society, everything with respect to the society, with respect to various kind of social institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, how the human to human interaction is changing, that all comes under the purview of sociology. So that is how you can say in a very generic sense that how globalization is leading to the expansion of a scope of sociology. Okay, now I'll show you a proper mental framework along which you can think in that particular direction, that will help you to make a very structured answer. Okay, remember, always remember that whenever you talk about the introduction, when you talk about the main body, when you talk about the conclusion, it should be strictly in the context of the demand of the question. Like when we talk about the scope of sociology, whether it is changing or not in the context of globalization, so basically you give a scope of sociology introduction with respect to scope of sociology. Okay, so see, when I talk about the introduction, I'm saying the scope of sociology has ever been increasing in the era of globalization, because there's a free movement of people, goods, services, information, technology, investment. This had a big impact on society in general and Indian society in particular, because we have here, see, Indian society. Because in the question itself, they have asked very specific thing, that the scope of sociology in India has expanded or not in the era of globalization. So I've mentioned the Indian society, this critical, especially post 1991 reforms. Now let's talk about the changing scope of sociology in the era of globalization with respect to Indian society, just like population dynamics. Right? Okay, when we talk about the population dynamics, basically in the era of globalization, there's a free movement of people. So when there's a free movement of people, there's an exchange of ideas, there's an exchange of culture. This is having a major impact on the society, especially in the Indian society, because we have been importing the various cultural ideas, belief systems from the Western society to the Indian society. Okay, all those things you can talk about. Just like new kind of movement, here you can talk about various kind of a movement, just like you can talk about the environmental movement, you can talk about the Black Lives Movement, women's movement. Okay, that is also having profound impact in the Indian society. Gender inequality, you can talk about the Me Too movement here. Here, how in the era of globalization, the family is changing, marriage is changing. Earlier, the family was a joint family system. Now, because in the era of globalization, where there's free movement of people, people are migrated to the urban area, even to the abroad. So the family is, the whole structure of the family is now changing from joint family system. Now it is moving to the nuclear family system. Marriage earlier was considered a sacrament bond, okay, that cannot be broken. But now marriage is seen as a kind of a very secular bond, and if you're not happy, you can simply move away. Now divorce is not ostracized, if not celebrated. So all those things you can talk about. Then social values. Earlier, the emotional bond between the kinship people was very much strong. Okay, everybody was very much emotionally connected with their, you can say, neighbors, with the wider kinship group. But now the relationship has become more and more mechanistic. So accordingly, it is changing our thought pattern. It is accordingly changing our behavior. Just like we talk about, globalization is also having an impact in terms of food, clothing. Just like we talk about in food, in India, we have a culture of McDonald's. Now they have also nudged their product, just like in India, they knew McDonald's that they cannot have a proper pork burger. So probably they made a change and introduced an aloo tikki burger or chicken burger, right? Clothing pattern, just like we wear jeans with kurta. Okay, so Western, ethnic Western dress, right? Again, you can see employment. There's a free movement of people, so it is also changing the thought process. Then empowerment of deprived section of the society, just because suppose in the Western society there's a people from the deprived section of the society, just like Black Lives Matter, where we talked the George Floyd case. So when the people are connected because of the free movement of the, you can say, people and the ideas, information, everything, technology, so they are aware that in the Western society there is far more equality compared to the Indian society. So they started also demanding that for so many years we've been deprived of the basic amenities of the life. So that is why they started asserting various spaces that have been neglected to them, just like access to proper public spaces and all those things, rights. Just like you can talk about the poor, deprived section of the society, they started forming the political party. We can give an example of Bahujan Samaj Party, Samajwadi Party. Okay, and then since we are talking about in the context of globalization, has the scope of sociology increased or not? So I'm also giving certain thinkers, just like Ashish Nandi, a renowned scholar in India. He basically talked about globalization led to the erosion of traditional values and culture. You can also quote Dipankar Gupta, who talked about globalization led to the emergence of new form of identity and belonging. New form of identity, if you have experience in Delhi, especially in the urban areas, just like you go to the Connaught Place, okay, there are the people who are simply putting their speakers, started dancing on the streets. So that New York street culture, okay, that have been imported from the USA and India, okay. So New York street dance culture. Okay, even you can talk about the new form of identity, just like LGBTQ community. Now they are coming out in open and talking freely about their sexual orientation. All those things, you can give an example. Then, then apt conclusion as per the demand of the question. Just like globalization has both positive and negative impact on the Indian society, and it has led to both the continuity as well as change. Because no society can be completely static, no society can continuously change as well. Okay, in the sense when I say continuously change, because there's certain elements that will keep on repeating itself, so there'll be continuity and there'll be also change. Continuity leads to stability and order, and change brings a very important aspect that we need to progress. So this has enlarged the scope of sociology in India with focus on the interdisciplinary themes. This is how you can approach this question in a proper structured format. I hope this session was quite helpful and we are able to decode this question properly. So with this, we'll end the session. Thank you and all the best.